Hi everyone, Bandana here. I hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to talk a little bit about WARNO because finally we have some more good news, which is that the slightly talked about artillery rework back in May is now slowly becoming a reality by the looks of things, as per today's dev blog. Another thing to mention before we get into that is obviously the Nemesis 6 vote is up. You can vote for Nemesis 6.1, the Mountaineers. You can vote for Nemesis 6.2, the Madberg Counter-Strike, which should be called Brothers in Arms, and that's the one you're all going to vote for because that's the British and American combined division, which means the special relationship is alive and well, and we're going to crush some commies. Or you can vote for Nemesis 6.3, Schools Out. And it is out the door because no one wants any of that trash. Vote 6.2. Anyhow, back to what we need to talk about, which is the artillery update. So, update on the artillery rework. This was mentioned back in May 2025, so it's been a long time coming for an update. But it has been slowly tinkering along in the background, and they've asked for feedback and ideas and things like that, which I won't go into for obvious reasons. Anyhow, they're still progressing steadily, but there's various bits and things that need changing. I don't want to spend 6 hours on this video, so let's blast through these. So there will be a setup and takedown timer on all artillery. This was mentioned before. The idea is it will be on every type of artillery because of gamification. They need to balance it for gameplay. Obviously, some of the modern self-propelled stuff doesn't probably require a setup time. It can shoot and scoot very quickly. However, in terms of gameplay, this would make them simply the only choice and too powerful. So everything will have a setup time when it first deploys, and everything will have a period before it can move after it's fired a salvo. That applies to all artillery. Now, the reason for this is simply that towed artillery is always more fragile. It takes a while to move, yada, yada, yada. Which means that if you only do it to towed artillery, then the self-propelled artillery becomes even more of a pick than it was before. So they have to balance that out. So they cannot make it more dominant. They've got to balance it. So the idea here is that artillery becomes more vulnerable, not less useful, so that it's easier to do counter-strikes and counter-battery, which means that you have to be more selective about how you're using your artillery due to the fact that you risk losing it. You're going to have to pick your times better. You're going to have to use it for counter-battery more, potentially. And maybe that'll help 10v10s, where currently it is just a case of artillery spam fest. It always has been, but it feels worse lately. I don't know why. Anyhow, they're also adding an artillery commander, which is something very similar to what you have in Steel Division 2. Basically, in WARNO, it's going to be called the Fire Direction as a new trait, and they're currently working on that in the background, but that'll be a new unit in the artillery tab. Now, here's the big one, and this is a change that I've wanted since the game first came out, because I didn't like how mortars and howitzers, especially the lighter caliber, worked. And it goes back to things I said about the Grad as well. So the Grad in Wargame Red Dragon was a great tool for suppression. You fired the Grad, it did massive area of suppression, didn't do a huge amount of damage, and that was great. It had a great use in that. Obviously, they went a different direction in WARNO, and unfortunately, mortars and light caliber howitzers also struggle. Basically, heavier gun pieces, the 155 and the 203, etc., as they mention here, they're accurate, they're very destructive when they're hit, but ineffective when they miss, but it didn't really matter because that's what you took, because they do the damage. Taking 105mm, even if it hits, it's tickling. What's the point? So, the goal is to change this binary choice. So, there are more options, rather than just taking sniper or nothing when it comes to artillery. And that includes changing mortars. So, to achieve this, we'll go through these very quickly. Mortars will receive a damage boost and a larger splash radius. This will greatly improve their effectiveness as short-range artillery pieces. Their suppression area effect will also be significantly upgraded. So basically, suppression area of effect, big, damage, a little bit better than it is currently. Not being satisfied with the current mortar shell trajectories, thank God, welcome to the same page as the rest of us, which in our opinion are excessively high and result in too much time between firing and impact. Welcome to 2 years ago. We will update them. However, several WARNO engine limitations require us to rework deeper back-end core systems to gain more flexibility in tuning physics and projectile trajectories. This work is currently underway on the development side of things. Howitzers will see a slight reduction in their direct damage, but a wider splash radius in turn. Their suppression will increase as well. This makes them more potent in suppressing enemy units even without directly hitting them. So shockwaves, shrapnel flying in around your ears, your head, yada yada yada. You get the idea. And then mortars will generate a greater suppression splash compared to the howitzers of equivalent caliber. This reflects the mortar shells fall more vertically, which in turn creates a larger area of effect. This adjustment will balance both gameplay, intent, and realism. There you go. Some realism thrown in there just for good measure. We will see the above changes as fundamentally altering the artillery gameplay experience. Mortars and howitzers will affect a wider area with each salvo, making them easier to suppress multiple units. And even with smaller calibers, light howitzers, the 105, the 122, become much more interesting, and the mortars gain utility beyond creating smoke screens. Hallelujah, finally. Beautiful. Napalm artillery. This is the other one that I am so happy about. This one, I'm glad that they've finally come out and announced it because it's driven me mad. So, flame effects on the battlefield will be rebalanced. That's napalm munitions and just all flame effects. The effectiveness of fire on a unit will now scale with armor. It will be strong against light armor, reduced against medium armor, and minimal against heavy armor. Thank God for that. Where was this again 2 years ago? That I remember when I did testing videos of units when they did updates early on, and spent all that time doing the testing, and you're like dropping napalm bombs on a tank, and the tank's just popping. It was ridiculous. Anyhow, or driving them through the napalm anyway. So that's not all. They're also working on a few other changes which they hope to roll out in stages. For instance, in the first announcement, they talked about adjusting artillery salvos based on tactical needs. This is not something that they've forgotten about, but have to push that back in the timeline for now. Keep in mind that maybe not all updates will be included in the initial release. Note that everything we presented in today's dev blog is still in development and will affect all divisions and is subject to change. And apologies, my dog is making a noise because she wants some attention. The next big question is when. Well, we are very busy getting this into your hands as soon as possible, but with a big Eugen trademark on when exactly they don't know. The goal is to test everything thoroughly with our own QA plus the excellent strike team. Isn't that nice? They're saying nice things about the strike team. It's all the strike team's fault. I blame them for everything. Yeah. And then they reminded about voting Nemesis 6, which you're going to vote for Nemesis 6.2. Just a friendly reminder, because the others are trash. Always 6.2. Get the British and Americans in. Anyhow, thank you very much for watching. I hope you all have a great weekend, and I'll see you all soon.